some of these Haitian migrants are either taking pets or wild animals and eating them.
In the park, grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them.
But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard.
Welcome to No Border, No Country. Judge Matt O'Brien. Just when I think we've covered every crazy story about this immigration crisis, along comes something that you couldn't have written in your imagination. We've got a story out of Springfield, Ohio that's gone viral here with Haitian migrants settling in this community in massive numbers. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
So apparently the federal government sent about 20,000 Haitian migrants all at once to the small town of Springfield, Ohio. And either the government failed to consider what was going to happen when they all got there, or didn't work with the refugee resettlement authorities to try and get these people on a stable footing. They just showed up. And so now there's reports that they're sleeping on people's lawns and all kinds of other crazy stuff that I'm sure we'll get into.
Now, a lot of people in this country can testify to this. This sort of thing is happening all over the country, in communities big and small. But what made this story jump out is some of the reports that these residents are talking about, namely that some of these Haitian migrants are either taking pets or wild animals and eating them.
Yeah, so according to the testimony from people who showed up at a town meeting that was held about this, they're grabbing the ducks and geese out of the ponds and using them as a food source. That may strike people as strange, and I'm sure a lot of people would discount that and say, oh, it's xenophobia or it's just urban legends. But that actually happened in my hometown, north of Boston, and it happened in Boston. In Boston, a number of the swans went missing. And in my town, I had problems with them taking the, when I say them, I mean Haitian migrants that were resettled in the town, as well as Vietnamese and Cambodian migrants taking ducks and geese off of the local ponds and taking them home and cooking them up as a feast.
So these aren't just random reports. There was a town hall meeting in Springfield last month, and one by one, all these residents came up with these stories. So let's take a look at these real quick. I'd like to get some of your reaction to this. Let's take a look at this first one here.
I'm done with what I'm seeing. It is so unsafe in my neighborhood anymore. I have the homeless that were trying to camp out, and I have made concessions with them, and I try to help them the best I can to keep them from trying to squat on my property. But it is so unsafe. I have men that cannot speak English in my front yard screaming at me, throwing mattresses in my front yard, throwing trash in my front yard. And I can't. Look at me, I weigh 95 pounds. I couldn't defend myself if I had to. My husband is elderly, and last night, after living in this home for 45 years, he said, Noelle, guess what? It's time to pack up and move. He said, we can't do this anymore. He said, it's killing both of us mentally. I don't understand what you expect of us as citizens. I mean, I understand they're here under temporary protected status, and you're protecting them, and I understand that our city services are overwhelmed and understaffed. But who's protecting us? If we're protecting them, who's protecting me? I want out of this town. I am sorry. Please give me a reason to stay.
So, Matt, you've got to have a heart of stone not to be moved by this woman. I mean, she's very sincere. Does it sound like she's play acting or faking this or making up stories?
No, not at all. And it doesn't sound like this is a case of xenophobia. It sounds like this is a case of there are people, doesn't matter who they are or where they're from, committing crimes. They're trespassing on her property. She said they're putting mattresses on the front lawn. Who wants a bunch of strangers sleeping on mattresses on their front lawn? And you just wake up and find this one day. And of course, this is the federal government being irresponsible. The Biden administration has let these people in. There's absolutely no reason that any of these people should have been let into the U.S. just because they showed up.
Now, she referenced the fact that a lot of these Haitian migrants have this TPS designation. Tell us in layman's terms, what does that mean?
So temporary protected status is in a way like asylum light. And what it does is it gives the federal government a way for people who are in the country already to be allowed to stay, even if their visas are on the verge of expiring, or unfortunately, even if they're illegally present in the country. It allows them to remain here when there is a natural disaster, massive economic crisis, political crisis of some sort. The thing is, temporary protected status generally applies to people who are here. It's not a status you've specifically come to the United States to get. And so the Biden administration, just like it is abusing its parole authority, is now abusing temporary protected status. The other thing that our viewers and listeners should understand is temporary protected status has never been temporary. Over the last 3 decades that I've been involved in immigration law and policy, I've never seen anybody rescind a temporary protected status designation. I've seen them extended multiple times. And so you have people that came here in the 90s because of the hurricanes that ravaged the Caribbean and parts of South America during, I think it was between 95 and 98 sometime. Those people are still here. All of those islands and all of those countries that were affected by the weather phenomena have recovered. They've rebuilt, and yet the individuals who supposedly couldn't go back because their house was ruined in a hurricane are still here in the United States.
So it sounds like this is just another hustle for the government to funnel more foreign nationals into this country with no intention of sending them back.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Unbelievable.
It's an effort to funnel people into the U.S., ignoring the immigration law. That's the key part. I mean, it's bad enough that they're attempting to funnel people in here for a variety of different reasons, but they're completely ignoring the Immigration and Nationality Act. And this is a massive problem in the United States because, one, the federal government is bound by the Immigration and Nationality Act. But all of these cities who have declared themselves welcoming cities or sanctuary jurisdictions are also bound by the Immigration and Nationality Act. And they can't just ignore it because they dislike it.
Now, I've seen reports that the majority of these Haitian migrants in Springfield came to the country illegally initially and then were granted the TPS status. Is that correct, or have you heard that?
Yeah, my understanding is the vast majority of them scheduled their illegal admission on the CBP-1 app, which was never intended to be used that way. Yeah. It was an Expedia for illegal aliens when it first started. And that the government is granting them TPS because there was, I think there's several existing TPS designations for Haiti. I'm not sure what time periods they cover. And then I think there was a new one due to the fact that Haiti is essentially falling apart. They have a cannibal gang leader running the country basically now like a warlord. It's very, very Mad Max Road Warrior kind of situation over there right now.
There's a lot of angles to this story that we'll dive into some of them, but I wanted to watch this second clip. This is another resident of Springfield talking about this. This is the one I think that garnered a lot of the attention because he amplified these claims about the animals being eaten. Let's watch that.
You guys are just sitting up there in suicide. Like, I really challenge you guys to get out here and do something. These Haitians are running into trash cans. They're running into buildings. They're running into... They flipping cars in the middle of the street. And I don't know how, y'all can be comfortable with this. I don't know, who's getting paid from it. I honestly feel like someone's getting paid from it in the background. You got a bunch of people on a bus getting dropped off at a gas station to come down here. I know a single mom that FaceTimed me this morning at the welfare office that really need something. And it's nothing but immigrants over there. They're in the park grabbing up ducks by their neck and cutting their head off and walking off with them and eating them and it's going to get bigger and it's only going to get worse. And y'all sitting up there in these chairs, all y'all need to get out here and do something. Y'all making hundreds of thousands of dollars. Y'all need to put on a t-shirt and some Crocs, and then y'all need to come out here in these streets and y'all need to go out here and I'm out here before the police is. Y'all need to do something, bro. Y'all really got to stand on business. Y'all getting paid all this money just to wear a suit and sit in a chair. I think it's crazy, bro. That's where they come from and that's what they do. That's their country. I don't know what they got going on over there, but they can't do that over here. And if y'all just getting paid from it and then y'all ain't doing nothing about it, I think that's super weird, bro. Y'all got to stand on business. Y'all got to really, like, step up. Like, it's lame, bro. Like, for real.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So Matt, that's a pretty wild claim, but like you said, based on your experience, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, not by a long shot. I mean, this has happened before, and if you pour over enough news articles, go into the archives, you'll see evidence of it having happened in the past. But the other point that this guy made that I think was great, and the older woman who was testifying about the plight of her and her husband, I think made this point very eloquently as well. It's, what are these cities doing in order to deal with these problems? I mean, I'm presuming Springfield, Ohio has a police department, or it is somehow covered by a county sheriff's department. And it seems to me that if you have people trespassing, then you arrest them for trespassing.
Now, you've got this situation, and this is not a good look for the Biden administration's amnesty plans. I mean, this is just a community being overrun. You've got criminal activity. You've got animal cruelty. You've got all kinds of things. What do you think the knee-jerk reaction of the anti-borders crowd would be to this?
Well, they're going to say it's racism.
Yeah. Bingo. Yeah.
And, I think it's interesting because this is, I mean, obviously, to anyone who can see, the two people talking about this in the town hall meeting, one of them was not Caucasian.
Yes.
And we don't know what the ethnicity of the older white lady was.
Yes.
So this isn't racism. The distinction is being drawn between U.S. citizens and people who are not citizens. And the job of the U.S. government and of all the state and local governments, including the government of Springfield, Ohio, is to protect the citizens of the United States. It says it right in the Constitution and in the Declaration of Independence. Job of the government is to protect the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. Well, there's not a whole lot of liberty and happiness going around Springfield, Ohio.
People are getting hurt there. In that same article in New York Post, they talk about how in August of last year, a 36-year-old Haitian immigrant lost control of a minivan he was driving without a valid U.S. license on a highway near Springfield and straight into the path of an oncoming school bus. The bus driver swerved to avoid the driver, went careening off the road, throwing an 11-year-old boy from a window, fatally crushing him as the vehicle rolled. 20 other kids were hospitalized. So there's someone who, if not for the fact that he's here, that incident wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at this, these charges of racism are so ridiculous. There's nothing wrong with saying somebody comes from a country where most people don't drive without a developed road system. We think they ought to have some driver education before one gives them a license in the United States. I mean, I've been to the UK, to Scotland, and I would not want to try and drive there because they drive on the left side of the road. And every time that a cabbie or bus driver started to turn into a traffic circle going the wrong way, I was like, it's just an automatic reaction because that's what's ingrained. So it's, if we expect 16-year-olds in the United States to get a learner's permit and learn how to drive, the mere fact that someone is an adult from a foreign country doesn't mean that they should be given a license here. And I recall reading about that case, and actually I had forgotten about that until you mentioned it, that somebody actually had gotten hurt. And if I'm not mistaken, that guy had a driver's license from Mexico, not from the U.S., if I recall that correctly. Now, I don't know about you, but having been to Mexico and seeing the crazy way that people drive there, I'm not so sure that I would want to trust my safety on the road to the Mexican driver's test.
And another angle of this, I said there's many angles. Another one is that people in Springfield are starting to talk now about the number of auto accidents there being caused by some of these migrants. the auto insurance rates for residents of Springfield are going way up. I saw one where a resident there was saying his premiums have skyrocketed because they said it's more dangerous to drive where you live now.
Well, I mean, if you look at this from an economic standpoint, and this is putting aside the whole foolish debate that early has been a part of in a lot of different cases of whether we should give illegal aliens driver's licenses because that'll make the roads safer. Just put that aside for a moment. Look at this purely in a dollar signs way. Yes, auto insurance is going to go up. If there are burglaries and break-ins and thefts of anything from household goods to farm equipment, people's homeowners insurance is going to go up. If that's an agricultural area, the farmer's insurance is going to go up. And, the costs of healthcare, policing, fire protection, things like that are inevitably going to go up because if you have a bunch of people who come here with absolutely no ability to speak English, poverty-stricken, and with a questionable set of marketable job skills, who is going to wind up paying for those people when they need assistance, when they need food stamps, when they need shelter and they get housing benefits, and when they need medical care? It's the American taxpayer. So this increases the cost of everything for the federal taxpayer, but also for the residents of Springfield, Ohio.